You're expected to bill 28 hours a week, but somehow you're working 47. And the strange part is your calendar doesn't even look that full. You look at next week and it seems manageable. Your normal client sessions, a couple of meetings, it doesn't look like 47 hours, but it becomes 47 hours. And by Wednesday, you're already feeling behind. If that's happening, it's because you're either not planning at all or you're planning from your appointments, not from your actual capacity. Most clinicians open their calendar and build their week around what's scheduled: client sessions, supervision blocks, meetings, but those spaces in between scheduled tasks aren't empty. They're holding documentation. They're holding quick emails that aren't actually quick. They're holding the 5-minute conversations that turn into 20. Our jobs don't have clean edges where you simply punch in and out every day. An appointment ends, but your responsibility doesn't. So when you plan from what's visible on your calendar, you end up building a week that already assumes nothing will run long and nothing unexpected will happen. And something always does. So instead of starting with your scheduled tasks, I want you to start with your capacity. Open your calendar for next week. How many billable hours are already scheduled? Let's say it's 28. That alone fills most of a 40-hour week. Now add the work that isn't billable, but absolutely has to happen. Documentation. If you're seeing 4 clients in a day for 2-hour sessions, and each one takes even 15 to 20 minutes of documentation, that adds up quickly across the week. Maybe that's 6 hours total. So now you're at 34. You add in meetings, maybe another 3 hours. Now you're at 37. Parent emails and follow-ups, let's say that's just another 2 hours. You're at 39. Now add what we rarely plan for, which is the time spent dealing with those interruptions. Maybe we are dealing with coverage issues or sessions running over, maybe a client in crisis or a staff question that needs more than a one-sentence answer. Even 1 hour of buffer per day to account for these is just another 5 hours. So now you're at 44. And that's before anything unexpected happens and assuming you don't have any travel time between clients. This is why a 40-hour job quietly turns into 45 or 47 and even more. Not because you're inefficient, even if that's what your boss would have you believe. It's because you never calculated your full workload. Real capacity isn't your total billable hours. It's what's left after billables: communication, documentation, meetings, and a realistic buffer to deal with everything else that comes up. For most clinicians, what's actually left for planning or projects is much smaller than it looks on paper. And if you keep planning from the assumption that you work 40 hours when you're already putting in at least 44, you're going to keep paying for it in your evenings. Once you see the real numbers, the next step is simple. Stop trying to plan one giant to-do list. Instead, organize your week into 3 different categories. First, what absolutely must happen. Those are your clients' sessions, any required meetings, supervision, the non-negotiables, the things that absolutely have to get done. The second category is the baseline for your administrative tasks, the very basics of what needs to get done. This is where most weeks start to fall apart because we often underestimate how long these tasks take. This includes the documentation that you have to do, emails, staff updates, prep for your clients. If you don't assign these administrative tasks a specific time, they won't get done during the day and they will assign themselves to your evening. So instead of letting documentation float somewhere in the gap between appointments, you need to start pre-assigning them specific times. If you see 4 clients on Tuesday, schedule a documentation block that day. Because if documentation isn't planned, it doesn't just disappear. It relocates itself, usually to 8:30 at night. Then there's the third category, which is progress for you and your clients. This includes program updates, systems improvements, projects that you want to get done, and even continuing education, because where would that even fit in your work week? This category only gets what's left in your schedule after your must happen work and your administrative baseline are already scheduled. And this is where most people overload themselves. They try to jam all these tasks in just before they're due on top of the client care and documentation. That's how evenings quietly disappear. These tasks still need time, but since you don't block out time for them, you put them off until they absolutely have to get done. And at that point, they're going to spill into your evenings and weekends because there's no time left for them during your work week. Capacity first planning means progress fits inside what's actually available, not what you hope will be available. And even if you set your week up well, there's one thing that will undo it if you're not careful. And that's something that we are all guilty of doing. It's overcommitting in real time. We say yes when we don't actually have the capacity to take on something new. Often we say yes because we don't feel like we have a choice. But you'd be surprised how much choice you actually can have if you present it carefully. So here's the rule I want you to start thinking about. Nothing can get added to an already full week. Every new task or commitment should replace something else in your week. If you're asked to join a committee or take on a training, cover an extra case, or add another responsibility, it has to come from somewhere. That doesn't make you a difficult employee. It makes you a thoughtful and intentional one. I know it's hard to say no when your boss tells you they expect you to take on something new, but you can say something like, I can take that on, but it would mean stepping back from the weekly committee meeting. Which would you prefer? Or I can add that training, but I'd need to move the system update you asked me to do to next week. Does that work for you? You're not outright refusing to do what you're asked to do. You're clarifying the trade-off that will come if you accept the commitment. Approach it from their perspective. They might not understand what your capacity actually is. Another great strategy is to say something like, I'd love to take that on, but I'm not sure where I can fit that into my schedule. Can you sit down with me and help me figure out where this fits? Sometimes they just need exposure to your reality to see that you don't actually have capacity for more. Capacity isn't about willingness to add everything that comes in front of you. It's about math. If something new is ongoing, then something ongoing has to adjust. If no one chooses what gets removed, your evenings absorb the cost. And that's probably what's been happening. If we never stand up and say, hey, I just don't have time for this, then new things continuously get added. Keep this from slipping week after week. I want you to try something small on Fridays. Before you leave, write 2 simple lines. The first one is just, what stretched me and my schedule this week? Was it overbooking appointments, constant interruptions, emotional fatigue, saying yes too quickly? And second is, what actually protected my time? Did you schedule a documentation block? Did you delay a response to someone else's request? Did you decline taking on something new? You don't need to do more than that right now. You need just one small adjustment. And the first step is always just to become really aware of what's actually happening. Capacity first planning isn't about building the perfect week. It's about making sure the week you build actually fits inside the hours that you have. So you're not finishing notes after dinner just to stay afloat. If your week keeps running long, it doesn't automatically mean you need more discipline. It usually means you planned for your appointments instead of your capacity. And once you see the full load clearly, you can start building weeks that stay inside 40 hours instead of quietly stretching to 47. If you want help figuring out where your capacity is leaking, whether it's overcommitment, reactive planning, boundary drift, or mental spillover into your evenings, I made a short guide called Why Work Follows You Home and How to Stop It. Includes a quick self-assessment so you can see which pattern is driving your extra hours, and it walks you through the first structural shift to make. It's in the description below. You don't need a new system. You need a week that fits. And that starts with knowing what your capacity actually is.